The Global Latin Factor Podcast.
Welcome you and to another episode of the Global Latin Factor Podcast, where we talk about Latino everything. And today, just like every episode that we have, very special episode because we have an artist, civil rights activist, energy healer. We have Brenda Corazon Márquez in the house. How you doing?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Nice meeting you and welcome to the podcast. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's cold and it's rainy out here.
It's
and
freezing. Look at me, I'm all
I know.
bundled up.
You definitely keeping yourself warm. We appreciate it very much. I saw you, one of our previous guests, Mr. Never Die. You might know him by a different name. He posted something on IG, and he said something about it runs with the family. And I saw some of your artwork, and I'm like, man, I want to have every single type of Latino that we can possibly have, like for every sector, because that's what it means to me, the Global Latin Factor. We touch the music sector, the art, the food, everything. We're everywhere. So I just want to make sure that I display every single type of person. And when I saw your picture and y'all interact, I'm like, I must have her here.
Yes.
So thank you
yes,
for being
he's
here.
my nephew.
He is your nephew.
And it's interesting, he's my long lost nephew.
Because he's you're Puerto Rican and he is Puerto Rican too.
Yes, and I found him based on Ancestry.com DNA test.
Okay, well, let me ask one question first, and then we get into that question because
Yeah.
I'm very interested about that. Okay, why do you go by Corazon?
So, years ago, I worked with an artist. She was a local Santa Barbara artist. And she was actually like my mentor when I was in school. And fast forward, I reconnected with her like in 2008.
Right.
And she was doing a heart workshop. And so I went in to take her heart workshop. And after that, I just decided to make a bunch of heart artwork. Fast forward 2014, I went to do like a personal development course.
Gotcha.
In which in the leadership course, I claimed myself as an artist with the name of Corazon. And it stems back from doing a series of heart artwork.
What is heart artwork, if you don't mind?
It's
you
just
mind educating me on
It's
that?
just hearts, literally just hearts. And so I recall the first heart that I did, and it was really kind of disturbing in a sense. It was kind of brokenhearted and like paint everywhere. It was kind of a little bit messy. And then
Is it a little bit of reflection of what you had going on during
I
that
think
time of
so.
your life?
Yeah. And it was a hard time in my life at that point. My daughter's father had recently passed. And so there was a lot of stuff going on there in terms of the reflection that was coming out in my work at the time. And at that point I said, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and keep making hearts until they turn out pretty. And
That's
I
awesome.
just claimed myself Corazon. And that's where it happened. Sometime between 2018, no, not 2008 to 2014 was where all of that was brewing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and you originally were born in California?
I was born in LA.
You were born in LA.
Los Angeles, California.
You're 11 months here in Texas.
11 months.
How's your experience so far? How you loving Texas?
It's been
It's going on you.
different. You know what? I've been enjoying myself. Working. I've been doing a lot of artwork, but it's a big change. I'm not gonna lie. It's just been a like night and day type of thing. Like where I used to live to where I am now, but it's a good change.
That's good.
It's a really good change.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's get to the question. So about the ancestry search. So you told me you did some digging, some deep search, found a lost nephew that you
Lost
didn't
family,
know about.
yeah.
Of a different area, like a Latino, or like a Puerto Rican side. I don't know if you know that you were Puerto Rican or not.
No,
until
I
that
did.
point.
I did. So What happened was that my mom is my father's second family. And the first family, no one ever told us where they were. And I do know that I had 3 siblings. And I could never find them. No one in my family would disclose who they were and such. So, just out of curiosity to understand my genealogy, my family's, a couple of my siblings and myself, we took the DNA test. And it matches you with people who are within your bloodline, right? Your DNA matches you by DNA. And we ended up finding someone that was extremely closely related. And it turned out to be my sister, my half-sister. And then from there, a couple of nephews, which one of them was my sister's son, and then the other one was Never Die. And he was, we ended up connecting through Facebook. I found them on Facebook. And I sent him a message, and I'm like, hey, I'm your aunt. He's like, what? He didn't have any connection to any of his mother's side of the family.
Oh, wow.
And now he has at least 3 aunts and 1 uncle, and then all our kids and everything. So
really,
and I met him via Facebook when I was still in LA. And out of random chance, I ended up moving to Texas, and he's in Houston, and I'm
down
here.
the street.
Yep. And that's so crazy. We got to meet in person, and so
was
that's
that
how
the
we
first
connected.
time picture that y'all met in person, or y'all had previously met before?
We had met a couple years before, and then recently he's been out here to visit me a couple times.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What made you, or what feeling did you had that you wanted to start searching or even do a DNA test? Was there anything?
Well, it comes that comes from my experience in school. When I was in college, I studied Mexican American history, and I was very interested in ideology and culture and where we come from. It's always been a question to me, like, well, what are my roots? Because as Latinos, we're mixed, particularly me, that I'm mixed Puerto Rican and Mexican, and just looking at people, different features. I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood, not a lot of Latinos at the time.
What area was that in LA?
That was South Central LA.
South Central.
Yeah. So I grew up in that area. With time, things kind of more Latinos started to immigrate into that area. In fact, in kindergarten, I was probably one of the only Latinas in the English-speaking groups,
Really?
And so it was very interesting for me to learn about my history, where my family came from, and that kind of stemmed like, well, okay, so I know where my family is from, where my mom was born, where my father was born, but what's my DNA? And so that's why I took that test.
So that started the idea of trying to look into it.
Yeah.
And then years later, what was it, 23andMe that you used, or what was the Ancestry?
No, it was Ancestry.com.
Ancestry.com.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been curious to do that, but my only concern is the regulation of what they do with your DNA once they acquired it.
Yeah, well, with me, I don't care.
You don't care.
I'm like,
So you don't care.
I'm like, I don't care.
You don't care. There's
Clone me, whatever.
Hey, so each their own. If you're okay with it, okay. Based on your analysis of the things that you have studied in school and everything, and try to figure out like what people are, what Latinos are, why Chicano, why this and that, and we'll touch more on that. But what has your conclusion personally been as to what we come from, what we are, where the just our Latinos ancestry comes from, really?
Yeah, well, it really changes within each individual and what you identify with. And then another identifier is your culture and where you grow up. So for me, because my father passed away when I was very young, I don't really identify too much with my Puerto Rican side as I do with my Mexican side. I've been to Mexico. I've been all over the place in Mexico. My Spanish is Mexican.
Yeah.
I'm very much into the culture. I love my Mexican culture. I'm very connected with it. But even within the Mexican culture, the traditions of the indigenous and the not indigenous and the colonizers part of the Spaniard and all that stuff, and then the Puerto Rican, it was a whole other thing. Even when I first started college, I grew up in a neighborhood in my education all the way up to high school. I knew everything about Black culture, about the Black Panthers, about MLK, and, Emmett Till, everything that had to do with Black culture. And I didn't know until I got to college about the Brown Berets, about Cesar Chavez, about,
Dolores Huerta.
About Dolores Huerta, about the Chicano movement, the Chicano art movement, about all of that activity. I had no idea. I really didn't.
And it happened literally next door to you. Like, y'all were down the street from where everything happened.
Yeah, and so then that's what prompted me to choose that major. I did major in Chicano studies because I wanted to learn more about my culture. Okay. I wanted to know more about me.
Let's pause on that one because I don't know why I was so eager to get into the conversation that I didn't even do preguntas al chile.
Dale preguntas al chile.
So we're going to pause on that thought and we're going to do preguntas al chile first. So preguntas al chile.
A ver, con chile. Y limón y sal.
Preguntas al chile.
What are you waiting for so you can check out this amazing graphics that Carlos put together? Now, we're going to get to it. I swear. This is the first time it happened in almost hundreds of episodes we're done. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Okay. Preguntas al chile. ¿Tacos o tortas?
Tacos.
Okay. Corn tortilla or flour tortilla?
Corn.
Okay. So I'm going to touch into your Puerto Rican side. Arroz con guandules o mofongo?
Arroz con gandules, 100%.
Gandules, that's how you spell it. That's how you say it. Sopa de plátano o asopao?
Asopao.
Okay. Tripleta or pasteles?
Pasteles, yeah.
So I'm getting all the Puerto Rican dishes. Piña colada or amaretto colada?
Probably a piña colada.
Coquito or Billy?
Coquito.
Agua de horchata o jamaica o tamarindo?
Jamaica.
Jamaica. Salsa verde, salsa roja?
Salsa roja.
Menudo o pozole? Do you care for either one?
Ugh. Yes, I do. I love me some pozole.
You love pozole? Yeah. The rojo, the green one, the red one?
Rojo.
Okay. Flan de queso o arroz con dulce?
Flan.
Flan de queso?
Yeah.
Nice. Besitos de coco or polvorones?
Polvorones.
Some of these are Puerto Rican dishes, by the way. So I did my homework on you.
Yeah.
Okay. And the conchita breads, the pastries, you like the concha, the brown ones, the white ones, or the pink ones?
The white ones.
Okay. And when you hear the word Latino, what comes to mind first?
Salsa.
Salsa. Yeah.
Merengue, cumbia,
Yeah.
reggaeton,
Love
Bad
it.
Bunny.
Right now, mostly, yes, you're right.
Y un buen mariachi
Yeah.
con
that's it.
tequila.
Awesome. Do you mind if anybody addresses you a Latina? Do you identify or like to call yourself more Latina than anything, or do you care about it at all?
Well, I've gone through the whole gamut of titles, and I understand why people identify or don't identify, so I really don't mind.
Why do you think people care to identify or not?
It just depends on their education and what they know and where these words stem from. And sometimes people use them in a way that could be offensive, and sometimes they embrace them for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, is really learning where these words come from and what they mean. To me, I identify as Mexican, Puerto Rican, American. But if you call me Latina, Hispanic, I don't take it personally.
There's people, like especially TikTok, I'll be watching some of those things, but they do have, because let's pick up on the conversation.
That's another one.
Well, that's another one. That was politicians came up with that term. And somebody had made a skit about how they just threw that word in to pin us against each other already. Like, oh, they're almost getting along. Let's just throw a little something in there so they can. And then here we are again. No, call me this, call me that. But anyways, you mentioned earlier colonizer, but a lot of people say that this term Latino also kind of sort of are titles that they gave us to kind of
lump us into one title.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's the case, or would it be easier because there's so many cultures too?
I think so. I think it could be a political situation. I mean, if really when you fill out an application, when you're mixed, it's a disaster. You don't know what to put on there. And so the easiest thing is to just mark the more general one, right? It could be Latino, it could be Hispanic, it could be, I mean, sometimes literally of Mexican descent, or of like, it kind of leaves you, well, what about the other half? Or, you know, there's a lot of Afro Latinos, there's a lot of Asian Latinos, there's everything. So I just kind of go with the flow, honestly, because if I sit there and fight all this stuff, I know who I am. I know where I come from. I know what I identify with. And to me, that's what's more important.
I think that's the problem, right? That we don't really just focus on what we are and what we care to be, and not what everybody wants to put us. Like, you might want to put me in that, but that's your idea, not mine.
I'll be part of your label if you want, but I know that when I go home, I don't say, oh, Latina, you know, I'm like, when I'm with my Mexican family, oh, Mexicana. Right. When I'm Puerto Rican family, oh, Puerto Riqueña, you know, so it.
Yeah, true. Okay, so back to the question I asked you earlier. So based on all your studies of looking at the African-American culture, discovering that there's a Latino culture, a Chicano culture that was doing some movement, civil rights movement, because there was a lot of injustice in the schools. They were not even letting them go to the restroom. They were like not even encourage them to go and further their education, maybe trade school, maybe one got to go to college possibly. And those young individuals, which were the brown berets mixed with different people, didn't agree with that. Now, after you studied all that, what do you conclude as to what are we? Are we native? We're not native? Are we Spaniards? Are we not Spaniards? Are we everything?
Well, that really does depend, and that's why I did my DNA test, because you really don't know like the makeup of your identity until you really study it deeply, and why you incline to be a certain way or another. You know, so for me, I kind of ended up rejecting the Chicano term because I was not, and they probably rejected me because I wasn't 100% Mexicana. My mom was born in Mexico. My father was born in Puerto Rico. I was born in California, and all they cared about was Mexican. And I'm like, well, what about my other side? Am I going to completely pretend like that's not there and not investigate and learn about that? And so I noticed that, and it just didn't really sit well with me. And so I never called myself Chicana. And the Chicanos and those groups, I kind of had to fall back on.
You know, and that's right, because my understanding of the reason why they started to use that term was because, first of all, Mexicans coming over, they have first, second generation Mexicanos, children here. The Americans didn't want them. And their Mexican roots, if you didn't speak Spanish or if you didn't carry yourself in a certain way, they didn't want you. So the Mexicans don't want you.
You're the pocho.
And the Americans, right.
The pochos.
And the Americans, they just see you as another illegal. So they're not even feeling they're wanted on this side, they're wanted on that side. So they decided to embrace Chicano as to where that's who we are going to identify.
Yeah. And at first it was even derogatory.
Yeah, it was derogatory.
And then it became a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the essence is the distinction of the Mexican American per se, or the American born of Mexican descent.
But it leaves you out.
It leaves me out.
Because you have Puerto Rican
Puerto
side.
Rican. Mm-hmm.
And I can see your dilemma during that time where we're like, well, I
Yeah,
can't really,
like, well,
I can't ride with y'all all the way because y'all excluding this side.
Exactly, I couldn't. And then what about our other people, like our Salvadoreños, Guatemaltecos, and all the
And
other?
they were having their own struggles too.
And so then now there's a distinction that I did not agree with. I didn't identify with that.
Okay.
Because to me that was just as bad as another racist term or another like racist boundary or barrier, you know, because now you're not accepting me because I'm not 100% Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was not a good thing.
But even the Chicanos are not being accepted because they're not 100% Mexican.
Right, but they're born here.
They're just born
and both
here.
their parents are from Mexico.
But the Mexican people
And
that are born in Mexico,
yeah, but that little group they did the same thing that was done to them with others. And so then, and that brought my studies into more of a Latin American ideology, like more inclusive.
You know what? This is my perspective of the things that I looked into as far as, I don't know if you believe that humanity started in Africa or not, but we usually really forget the fact that human beings supposedly been here 200 to 300,000 years, not millions. We haven't been here, supposedly the modern human. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but based on the things that I've seen, that's how long we've been. That's a really long time. To figure that you were not able to travel to different countries, especially with so many people wandering and want to explore the world. I mean, we want to leave Earth already, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then doesn't seem too irrational to be able to move to different areas to look for whether it's something to hunt or something to grow, to keep expanding over thousands of years ago, and then eventually get to where we know that there was a bridge where the water was frozen at one time that connected the continents and secluded some people in the Americas for a long time. We're talking about 10,000 years or so or more. And then those people were the native people that came from that area, which is Africa. And again, thousands of years ago that we're talking about, to where, of course, our curiosity, just like everybody else, I know I'm very curious, so I know probably my ancestors were curious, and that we kept migrating down south because some of the tribes that you see here, native, in the United States, have connections with tribes all the way to South America. So what does that mean?
100%.
We're all the same.
We're all interconnected.
We're all the same. And then after all those thousands of years, the land split it, and now we have the Europeans doing their thing, and then they began to be curious again, like we always have, and started making their way to the Americas with better technology at that time, and then started, being the conquerors and raping and taking lands, resources, and everything. And then all of a sudden we start cross breeding again. And then you have the natives that were 10,000 years left alone for a long time, now reconnected. And now you have this, like, I look like a native person. Even today, a lady told me, you look like the guy from, what's that movie? Apocalypto? Or that one. I look like him, but my hair's wavy. So there's no way that I could be all the way native because my hair is kind of wavy. Usually native people don't have very straight hair. But some of my features, if you can tell, I look like I belonged in that movie. You know what I mean? So that's my thought whenever I think about that. And then my conclusion at the bottom is like, look, we're all people, and we really do forget that we don't know all the way to 200, 300,000 where our families were. That's why I feel like we're always somewhat kind of connected and related if we all came from two individuals
the motherland.
Motherland, and two individuals that procreated for a long time within incest until that was yucky, and then now we became totally like we're not even close to, you know what I mean? But here and there, I don't know if you ever had that you run into people that you feel so freaking connected, like you met hundreds of years ago, and you have like this amazing freaking conversation. It's like, oh wow, like I've known you forever, and like you feel like we related to me. And sometimes it clicks in my head. You know what? Down the line, we might be related somehow.
It's true.
So
Yeah.
it's just my.
And energetically, you know.
And
if
that's
you believe
the other thing that I
you
don't know.
believe in past lives and
Yeah.
reincarnations, like energetically we're connected intergalactically, and if you believe in that, it's a whole other world.
Okay, so
A whole other concept.
let's go into that because I mean I don't know if you I don't know if you agree or kind of see my sort of the thing that I kind of see, and at the end of the day we are just human beings that are mixed of everything. That not everybody, even if you do your DNA test, is going to be 100% something. And if you are, there's a lot of instances going on within your family. You need to check that. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
but
absolutely.
We're just going to be like that. It's by default that we're going to.
Right.
If you just really think logically, I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks about that. I'm like, yeah, I realize we've been here for a long time as humans. And then at the end of the day, I feel like we're just people. And that's the reason, even though it's the Latin, global Latin factor, is because y'all know the word Latin, but I just want to show you the people, the person.
Yeah. But even within, like I was saying earlier, there's Latinos of every kind of combination and the whole spectrum, you know, of identities and what have you. So, yeah. And in my discovery with even my own, it was very diverse, you know, so.
But it makes a lot of sense, though, right?
Absolutely.
It would be, right?
Absolutely.
That's just to me, maybe.
And that was, you know, within my own experience in growing up and in my studies and the people that I've grew up around and my friends and all of that. I love to be inclusive. I don't like to be excluded because of this or because you're not that or because of all of this, and that's where my art comes from, because I did not want to be, even though I am starting to do some of my new work does touch on like Dia de los Muertos and Frida and those type of things, but I really wanted my work to not be looked at and labeled, oh, that's a Chicana artist. You know, oh, well, she only does calaveras, or she's trying to copy Frida Kahlo's stuff, or you know, a lot of up and coming artists that are of Latino descent, like, kind of go that way, and I didn't want to be that person, but somehow, even though I rejected it, grabs me and there I go and I end up doing it.
Because it is your roots at the end of the day.
It's my roots.
Right?
I can't reject it.
Kind of king.
Yeah.
Okay, let's touch
and it's
up on
my
that.
influence in my studies. So then that there it goes.
Okay, let's touch up on that. So did you begin to take classes before you enrolled into that course, the Corazon, the art?
Oh yeah,
course?
I have my art degree from UC Santa Barbara. I studied art with a concentration in painting and photography.
Okay. What made you want to go that direction?
You know what? This is really a crazy story. So I got accepted into the biological science degree program at UCSB. Nice. So I took a lot of science and a lot of math courses my first 2 years, along with a lot of Chicano studies classes. I was just taking those because I really enjoyed it and I wanted to learn more. So ended up taking a organic chemistry class that I didn't matter how many times I took it, I couldn't pass it. And I'm like, you know what? I can't do this major. I wanted to be a doctor and all this stuff. And I'm like, I can't do it. I don't think I'm cut out for this. Like, I'm going out of my mind with it. And I'm like, all right. So I went to the career center and I took one of those tests that tell you what you're more inclined to. Like, what's your forte?
Your path of which way you should go.
The stupid thing came back. Culinary artist. I'm like, culinary arts, I'm in the wrong school.
But it had art at the end,
like,
though.
Art? What was the closest thing to art? Well, I'll just do art classes. So I changed my major, and I double majored in Chicano studies and art studio. And I literally, like, as a joke, did the art degree.
Were you trying to crack a joke on yourself?
On myself?
Or the
I'm
fact
like,
that...
I'm just going to play around and mess around with the art students.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. I did a lot of really influenced by my Chicano studies, some really overt, like in your face type of art that was kind of, I don't know.
Those things are bogus to me. I really feel because
It was like, what was I doing? Like activist type of thing, you know?
Nice.
And I touched on a lot of feminism, a lot of cultural identity work. I did a lot of discovery within my own self. A lot of the work that I did was very emotional. It was very dark. It was very dark.
But we talked about that. It's probably the reason because you were going through certain things at that time of your year. It's only going to reflect on your kind of right by default.
And so then I completed my degree, and right after college, I became a teacher.
You were a teacher.
I was a teacher for high school teacher for almost 10 years for the LA Unified School
And a high school teacher at that. Ooh.
Yeah.
Tough.
I taught everything under the sun, from Spanish to geometry, algebra, biology, earth studies, social studies, because I had the social studies. Whatever teacher they needed, whatever subject, I taught it.
How many degrees do you have? You don't mind me asking?
I just have two.
You have
Chicano studies and art studio.
That's it. That's cool.
But I did have a lot of influence with math and science because my initial couple years I studied the biological sciences.
Yeah. So as a joke, you just became.
Yeah, I'm like.
And then now you just began doing the art.
Yeah, the art came after. Through my mentor in college, she really did inspire me because she was a practicing artist. She made a living off of art.
Nice.
And so I knew it could be done. But, you know, from teaching, and then I got into education and into other, got into the corporate world. But I've always done my art and, you know, I started to really get a following with that. So.
You had done classes, if I'm not mistaken. You did years back. You done Kids Day with Corazon, Paint and Sip with Corazon,
Yeah.
Talisman, the art show, the crosses and art, and then the Corazon workshop too.
Yeah, I did the Corazon workshops. I did a lot of art exhibits. I've done a lot of art exhibits, so it just has been a really wonderful experience to express myself and just making hearts.
Yeah, you still core to the art of doing the hearts as far as incorporating it with your art, even though you are doing Frida, you're doing.
Yeah, I did a lot of calaveras for the Day of the Dead. I just did a little 4-piece series of corazones. Is just kind of like my motif at this point, you know. Whatever piece I do make, there's always going to be a heart in it.
That's your signature.
Yeah.
That is. Yeah. Where would one be able to see your art pieces besides IG?
Yeah,
if they wanted
you
to see
can schedule a private showing at my studio right now. I'm still getting acclimated to Texas. I haven't done any exhibiting here yet. I do plan to have a few exhibits in California for 2023.
Oh, really?
But I'll see what I come up with here in Texas.
Yeah, we definitely got to see one.
Yeah.
At least one or two.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you want to see them in person, you have to come into my studio.
Yeah, let us know. We'll put the details of where can they reach you on your social media, so they can. And I definitely want to see the art.
Yeah.
That'll be great to see some of the pieces that you have. And if you don't mind, I don't know if you have. We'd rather just have the real experience.
Oh yeah.
Of how people go out there. We're not going to put any pictures of your work, but if you're interested to see a little bit of what it is, go check out her social media, and you'll be able to see some of the things. But that's dope, though.
Yes.
Okay, so now, right now, what would is it still your art considered the art type of work, or is it something different? Do you have your own name that you use as far as your technique or the things that you do for it?
Well, I started with a technique that was that came from the Japanese handmade paper, and I was doing some collage work with that, my very early work. And then I just one day kind of dumped that and just started doing just acrylic painting. But I've done a little bit of work on woodwork, but it's always, I would probably say, is very energy driven. When you look at my work, you can really feel energy flow with it. The colors that I use are very, very bright. They're very primary, secondary colors. It's just a play on paint.
Okay.
Like,
and it wouldn't be portrait or abstract or a little bit of mix.
I
of
would
both?
say it's more abstract, more expressionist.
Okay, gotcha.
I've never done realistic or portraits or stuff like that. It's
It's
just
not your thing at all.
no. I probably have done it once in my life or twice.
Really?
That I did like a pencil self-portrait type of thing, but even when I do figures, like I've done figures of women, I've done figures of indigenous, I guess, I don't know. But if you look at it, it's very expressionist. It's not realistic, but you can see the figure, and it's very colorful. Like, I don't make the face brown. It'll just be yellow or pink. You know, like, it's just, I don't really paint realistically.
Gotcha. Okay, so you mentioned a little bit of energy in your paintings, so it leads me to my next question about the energy healing, and I'll ask more questions about that human thing that you touched up earlier about, afterlife and all the other stuff here. But what does it mean? Like, you do some energy healing or things like that, correct?
Yeah. So when I was in my mid-20s, I don't know if you've ever heard about the when you go through a life-changing experience, the night of, like, the dark
Like an
night
epiphany type of stuff.
yeah.
Okay.
And so I was going through some things, and ended up meeting a lady, and she introduced me to Reiki, and that's energy healing. And you can, if you want to get an idea of what that is, it's kind of like when Jesus went into the 40 days and came back. He was a healer, and he healed with his hands. And so energetically, scientifically, if you rub your hands together, you can feel the energy between the palms.
the
And
heat.
so that's like infrared, infrared heat. And so that, when you place it on a body, it creates healing. And so I took the coursework back then, didn't do anything with it. That
What
was
made
probably
you want to take the course?
because it was intriguing. Like, it helped me heal from a time in my life where I was really in a negative place, in a very negative place. And I started to learn that this helped people. And so it brought people healing. And so then I took several classes, and I became a master, and then I became a certified teacher to be able to teach others how to do healing. And from there, I started to learn about crystals and the energy that they emit, and sound therapy, and how that helps the body. And I started to share it with others, and I started to be a practitioner. So then I have some folks that come to me for healing or different types of, like, spiritual advice and things like that.
So, but people, there are skeptics about the whole not understand. I know I heard about it. I heard about the terms you talked about. I heard about crystals. I've heard about sounds, all that stuff. But all that stuff is things that I heard. I never actually seen anything. But I believe everything's possible. I really do. I really feel
Right.
there's all kinds of stuff that even if I don't understand it, it's a possibility that things could happen, right? So with that, is there any example or anybody that you kind of could share without disclosing their name that they seen results
Oh,
starting
yeah.
with you with one thing and then ended up at a different place?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So one of my favorites, I would do workshops to help people with learn how to do manifestation and, law of abundance and
Right.
law of attraction and things like that. And first of all, it started with me because I was in a place like I was bankrupt. I had lost my job. I didn't even know where I was going to get the next paycheck to feed my kid, like a disaster.
Wow.
Like, remember earlier I was, oh, I'm 100% independent. Oh, there was a time where I was not. Like, I literally was not okay. And so I started to learn first with the Reiki healer the practitioner that I went to. Then I stumbled upon that book years ago, The Law of Attraction.
Yeah.
I read that book and I started to go to conferences and to learn like Tony Robbins and took that course about personal development and all of this. So I started to heal my own self because I was in a place of dark. Remember, I was telling you in college I was doing this dark work and I was not okay. And so how do you help others if you're not helping yourself? So then I started to develop myself, healing myself, learning these techniques on how to attract wellness. And it got to the point where my life completely changed, where I had a stable job. I bought a home. I had a great job. Then I started to share it with others because in the art studio where I was showing my art, the lady's like, oh, you should share that with the people. And I'm like, oh, really? So she created a little workshop for me. And so I invited some folks and I started to share about the law of attraction and candle work and all the things that I learned through reading and things I did for myself.
Well, let's backtrack a little bit because when you say it like that, it makes it seem like it was like this and everything happened, but it wasn't like that, right?
No.
You had to start doing, first of all, the thought of you changing because you were in a bad place.
Right.
And you had enough.
It took a few years.
And you had enough and you had to minimum have the thought that you needed to change something immediately. So it took a couple of years of consistently working on meditation, manifestation. Did you do any meditation?
Yes, absolutely. Meditation. I did a lot of journaling, setting intentions. I did hours.
Forgiveness? Is there any forgiveness?
Oh, yes, of course.
That you worked within that?
Yes, of course. Healing with my family. I did a lot of just releasing things that no longer served me, whether it's by journaling or burning a candle or going on a trip to Sedona and going to the vortex, whatever I was doing, just really having a clear intention on what is it that I wanted and what I wanted to let go. Because when you let go, then you have to replace it with the new thing, right? Well, if you want something, it's kind of like this cup. If it's full of water, but I want coffee if that's the only cup I have to get rid of the water and then put coffee.
You can add the coffee, but it's going to be diluted. It's not going to be 100%
Well, it'll spill
coffee.
if I haven't drank the water,
That too, if you haven't drank the water.
So you have to let go before you're able to allow things in.
So years started progressing, 2 or 3 years, and then finally, when you start seeing those changes, you share with other people.
I shared with other people.
They saw that they could be helpful because it could be helpful for other people.
Well, one of my participants, it was wanted me to help one of her daughters. She's like, she's seeing things and on the freeway, and she's like almost like crashing into cars. She's suicidal, and she's on all these antipsychotic drugs and just drugs too and everything. And I'm like,
so they were prescribed drugs. They're not
prescribed drugs and just like
all kinds of stuff
on a tangent. And I'm like, okay. So I spoke with a young lady. She was 26 years old, and it turned out that she had a gift, and she was seeing things that didn't make sense to her. And so I started to explain and how she could manage that situation. And at the end of the day, she ended up letting go of all of the prescribed drugs. She understood, based on meditation. She learned how to take the tools that she needed to help her own self as well.
What was she seeing, if you don't mind me asking? Or what was it that it was freaking her out?
She'll be driving on the freeway and see like someone walking by.
And that was something.
And she'll have to put the brakes because she thought it was a real person, and it wasn't. Nothing there.
But it was something that
She was seeing something. And
what do you think?
To me, she was seeing spirits. She was she was seeing the spirit world, and she didn't know how to identify the difference between reality and the spirit world.
And the medication they were giving her were just clouding everything.
Clouding everything. Correct.
That's crazy.
And so I shared with her the things that she could possibly do to make things better. And sure enough, her whole life changed. She ended up going back to school. Mm-hmm. She wasn't even driving at the time. Now she has her own car, has her own place where she lives with her partner. Like, her whole life, got put back together, and
that's after working with her.
After working with me, probably about a year.
Wow.
I worked with her for a year. I remember another young lady that came to one of my workshops, and she's a school counselor, she's a school psychologist. Mm-hmm. And I remember she's throwing her degree at me. Well, I'm a college graduate. I went to this and this school, and I'm a school psychologist, and I don't believe none of your mumbo jumbo, whatever you're talking about, spirits and energy and none of that. And it was a manifestation course where, we're setting intentions, law of attraction, and how it works.
Is she manifesting as she's saying those things?
But wait a minute. So I had another workshop the following week, and she shows up again, and I'm like, with her sister. And I'm like, well, you're the one that was giving me heck about, it's just that, I went home and I did what you said. And I ended up getting, my husband ended up winning a TV, and his job got switched closer to home, and I ended up getting this bonus check from some work that she had done before. Mm-hmm. And I didn't believe you, but after I did my manifestation work, I ended up getting all of this, and I kind of believe you now. She started bringing
That's funny.
The teachers and the counselors and the principal, and all these folks started coming to my manifestation classes. Yeah. The principal couldn't have a baby.
Oh, for real?
And after taking my classes, he brought his wife. They ended up having their first baby.
Wow.
And a whole bunch of beautiful things happened.
That's awesome.
To a lot of those folks that came to my workshop. Even inclusively, another person ended up also being able to adopt a child. They sold their house. They bought a brand new other house. Another young lady that had left her job as an attorney, mm-hmm. because that was just not what she wanted to do. She developed her own business, and now she has her own she has a couple businesses that she runs, one that has to do with art, and the other one, she teaches Spanish to folks that professionals that probably have they're bilingual, but their Spanish a little bit broken, so she teaches them professional Spanish for their business, and mm-hmm. just a lot of really, really good things. Another young lady opened up her own business in energy healing as well. She became she took one of my Reiki classes, and she started teaching it, opened up her studio for healing. Just a lot of wonderful shifts and changes with a lot of the community that I worked with.
And for the skeptics still that would say, how come you haven't put that into practice to win the lottery like that and made it a reality for yourself?
Well, probably because I don't really set my intention on winning the lottery. It's not what I want.
Yeah. You appreciate the journey of life
You
more?
know, it all depends on how you're vibrating. We all need to heal certain aspects of our reality. Maybe there's a part of me that's still in scarcity mode that does not attract the billionaire status in my life, you know. Maybe I'm not attuned to it, I'm not aligned with it in my energy. It's not until you're in that energy that you will attract it.
And that takes work.
It takes work, it takes a lot of releasing and really being in the pure element of love. If you're not in element of love, you're probably not going to attract it, you know.
Okay, so I had a thought,
But there is also the duality
and that means.
of the evilness.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in that space of really bad negativity, you're going to attract that with the bad intention, you know.
Yeah.
So you can't have good without bad, and you can't have bad without good. You need the dark and you need the light to make that distinction.
Yeah. Without no light, there will be no darkness.
Exactly.
Yeah. Without no
Exactly.
everything, hate, there will
Right.
be no love. There's always an opposite to the other
Yep.
part.
And a lot of times we sabotage our own greatness.
Yeah.
You know, there's always that ego, and that even we say, oh no, I'm not envious, oh I'm not jealous, that's a lie.
Let me go back a little deeper than that on that part, because I feel sometimes that some of the things that we have, because DNA is information, gets carried over to the next person, right? So certain things are great things for being able to fight viruses and things like that, right? But sometimes I feel that even those traits of things that our ancestors have had, still carried over to
Oh yeah,
ourselves.
absolutely.
And I feel that even with you, you have to explore that. I don't fully understand it, but I kind of sort of know, because I've done some exercise to see and try to go back as far as I could to try to release all those things that
Generational curses are
whatever
real.
they are real. But I feel as if I wanted, again, I'm not a scientist of anything. It's all stuff that I read and I get looked into more and see, like, does it make sense to me logically? And sometimes I understand logic is not gonna take me or give me an answer. I have to surrender to the fact that even if I don't understand it, like the lady that didn't believe, it's still possible to have certain things to be done without you understanding that they're happening. So I went back and looked at those things, and I still know that DNA passes on, and you have to release those. So how do you work those, or do you have any exercises that you do to work that, or work on those things in your area of your life?
Yes, because they're within you. And so the way to do it is really going within you and coming from a place of love and really releasing those tendencies and serving the other, like to release that karma. You know, for example, let's say, like from my generation, from my ancestors, I have at least almost 50% of Spaniard DNA. What does that mean? And all of that energy that is within my generation of the colonizer, as I explained earlier. And so how they just came and took and took and took. And so for me to release that ancestral karma, I have to serve. My whole life has been of service, serving the community as a teacher. Right now, I serve my day job like I'm a recruiter for the County Hospital of Dallas. And what does that hospital do? It services the community, the underrepresented community. And so I'm filling those positions that are in need, you know, as an educator in education, in what I do now in healthcare, within my artwork, helping people to heal I've done artwork that is of the heart. And what does that imply? The healing of the heart. You know, in order for you to be attracted to my work, there has to be some sense of love, because the heart is a symbol of love, right? And so how do you heal from those generational curses? It's by being of service, by being a person who can come from the heart and share and love. You know, you're not going to be able to experience that healing if we surrender to even society. What does society wants us to work, make money, and buy and buy and buy, and not even take care of our kids because we're too busy working, and all of this, like the vicious cycle. So what do we get to do within our experience as humans on this planet, and to service the planet and to take care of it? And like, what is your purpose? Your purpose, at least from my perspective now, is educating the public about who they are, about their culture. You know, that's being in service. And so by us continuing to share our experiences and continuing to come from a place of healing, that's how we're going to be able to raise our children different.
Yeah, because you can't do the same thing and expect to get different results for your generation.
That's psychotic.
Yeah, that's insanity. Right? You will continue to do the same thing within your family if you don't break certain same things that you've always done, same freaking education, like ways of educate. I feel like sometimes our Latino parents only educate us based on the way that they were brought up, thinking that subconsciously, not saying consciously, realizing that they thought that that's the way to do so, without understanding that that's not the way. And it's only okay until you don't know, because you don't know is fine. You didn't know, but now once you know, you need to do better, so you'll be able to get out of that cycle.
Right. And even me, I've raised my daughter a certain way that probably caused her a lot of trauma as well.
Really?
And so, but it's very different from what I experienced with my mom and what she experienced with her mom and what probably my grandma experienced with hers. It's changing. It's a lot better, but it can only get even more better.
But we have to work on that.
Have to work on
make
it.
Sure that it gets to that.
Exactly.
Okay, you mentioned earlier something about being clairvoyant. What exactly does that mean?
That's when you can see the future.
You can see it.
When you can see what's coming, or you have a feeling, or you get the knowing of something is going to happen.
And what does that help you with as far as in your life, or what can that be of service?
I think we all have it. We all have it, but we ignore it. It's like oh my God, I have a feeling, or you have that's maybe you shouldn't have done it, but you did it, and then
Does that align with deja vu? Kind of sort of the same things as far as like feeling that you already did that or been there, walked that path?
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like you're living this life experience again so that you can correct it or learn another lesson. So you kind of get a little bit of a reminder, oh, wait, remember, you've been through this already. So, and then you get the lesson. And then it's up to you to decide, are you going to do the same thing again? Right. Or are you going to change it? Even with a good example is relationships. You have a boyfriend and he's a certain way and it doesn't work out. And then you get another boyfriend and he's the same way.
The same way as the other boyfriend.
And it's like, and then you do the same thing the same way. And it's like, then you get another one. And then it just gets worse. Why does that happen? Because it's a lesson, and the lesson is to change, and you don't. And you don't get the better boyfriend or girlfriend until you learn the lesson and you make those changes, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Or else it's just again and again and again and the same.
And is that within our same life living, or is that because I think you touched up on earlier that like living the same life? You're talking about what is that called? Reincarnation type of stuff.
Yeah, it's life. So, from my understanding, life on Earth is like going to the university where you come to learn things, where you come to experience. Because when you're in the spirit world, you know, you're not matter, you know, you're not carne y hueso, you know, so
That'll be your soul.
you can't eat and taste and feel and die and
That
live
will be your
and
soul,
born.
like
Yeah,
kind of sort of what your
your
soul
spirit.
would be. Okay.
And so then you get to come and experience what you're going to experience. And you choose to come and live the experience that you're experiencing. You have free will, but you get to, like, you came to this planet Earth to do this.
I didn't know I was gonna be doing this.
Yeah.
But I kind of sort of get in the vision of what I need to or why.
And
I
I
mean,
chose to
doing
come and
this.
have a conversation with you and live this moment and be out and coming in and feel the cold and drive back in maybe the rain, or like the beauty of living and experiencing and really taking in the lessons, and to where we're going to go after we die, I don't know.
You know, I'm not scared of that anymore. I used to be, but I keep hearing stuff about where it would be going, not religious or anything, right? But where I will be part of when I'm gone, to where it's okay, because even you hearing your thought without speaking and you actually hear it, that's I'm getting too deep in things that I don't even understand, but I know that there's something there that is bigger than I, as far as this is just, like you said, a moment, a time, a life. It's beautiful, it's precious, protected, but it's not everything once it's all said and done, when you're done with
And
this.
it's only a glimpse, and we could be gone tomorrow or not, or live many more years, who knows. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just a blink of an eye. And
It is. It's very
we
much a
get
blink
to
of an
really
eye.
enjoy every moment as great or not great, because those hard moments is what brings us into the next moment. And if we choose to really focus on what we would call a negative feeling, then, you know, is that really where we want to go?
Yeah.
Like, or make the best out of it and move on to the next. So I think there was a time in my life where I just saw things so negative. And now I really get to I love my solitude. I love being alone. I love, you know, just being in my expression. And then moments when I go out into the public and relate with my family and friends and meeting folks. And that's important to me, because I don't know if there's a lot of folks that don't get to do that.
But doesn't your I'm the same way you are. But I didn't used to be. I had to be out and about with different people and crowds or whatever. But doesn't that help you so much more to when you're in solitude? Like, so I heard a saying from a gentleman that he's a yogi, that he said, if you're miserable when you're alone, then you're in bad company. And that hit me a long time
And
ago.
you're the only company with yourself.
Exactly, meaning that, like, you really have to do some work in order to. So whenever I'm by myself, I'm freaking laughing out loud and just, you know, not in that psychotic type, but I'm really having a good time. But whenever you get to go out, like, outside of the world, and you get to interact with somebody, it's such a much better interaction, because you know, maybe you were craving that human interaction. And when I get to see my family, if I haven't seen them in a week or two, like, much even better, at least for me, in my experience.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not, but even that's okay. You know. And you know, just being grateful. I guess that's another major point that a lot of people make that are in, you know, in alignment with their spirituality and things like that. Always be grateful for everything. And it's true. You know, you just don't know what you have until you don't have it.
Yeah.
And so be grateful for it in that moment.
Or you put it in perspective of other people that are going through, at least for me to, like, for example, I bring it up lately because it's a more current event, like Ukraine, right? Like, let's say you have a flat, like myself, I got in a wreck not too long ago, nothing happened to me, regular life stuff events. But in another place, in another country, they got their life taken like completely away, and they have to either, hopefully they got to live another day and they are able to flee the country. But whatever home they had, whatever life they had, it was taken away completely. I barely had a wreck and I was good. My car got damaged. I'm fine. My health is fine. It will be fixed. I'll get it done. But in perspective of other people in another third world country, they're having to go days without a meal, or 2 or 3 days, or even a days to go get some clean water to drink.
Right.
I have it made so much. I have it so easy. It's not even funny.
Yeah. And that's why we get to have gratitude for that.
Yeah. And sometimes we do take it for granted, because don't get me wrong, I still do. I don't think I've been grateful today, just today. I usually remind myself that I'm not immortal. I am mortal and I will die. And it helps me put perspective in life, as far as that I'm not going to be here forever. So I need to, hurry up and do what I need to do. But sometimes I do slip on the fact that I do need to be grateful for the things that I have, because it is a beautiful thing that I have
that you've
here.
created. Look at this wonderful thing. And it goes, going back into the art thing, I enjoy making my hearts, making my scribbles. I call them scribbles, like literally. Like some of them are scribbles.
Do you think it's healing for you? Beautiful. It's therapeutic for you to do that?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. If you really study the chakras, you've heard of that, and each has a designated color.
Correct.
And when I do a series, it's one of each chakra color.
Really?
I start with the red one. And then I start with the next orange one. Really? And then I go into the yellow one. And I go up into the levels. And that's why my artwork is so colorful, because I'm literally working with the primary, like, chakra colors. I love to do the zodiac, and I designate the certain color, and I kind of go into the zodiac and the series of that. So my work is very driven by spiritual things. The talisman show that I did, it was all amulets from different parts of the world.
Really?
From Egypt, the Ankh, or the Eye of Ra, or the.
So they all have all these cultures from different parts of the world.
I actually do research in a lot of my paintings. A lot of them are not just scribbles. A lot of them I actually go into and I do research, and what's the Ankh about? Like, what's the Eye of Ra? Like, who? Like, I did a painting of Isis and of Horus and of, like, all these Egyptian iconography. That's part of one of my favorite things that I like to do. Protection symbols. I did a series of protection symbols. So that's a lot of what's underneath a lot of my work. Kind of looks pretty, but when you really sit down and look at it, like, you can see on some pieces, like, there's, like, deep meaning around it.
Is that I never been to an art gallery just to see, but you always see those memes of people looking into a painting and kind of like, give meaning to it. And, I always thought it was just like just a painting, but it's crazy to me that there's certain things that you can put in there that if you really know some stuff or we looked into, then you'll be able to, like, connect with the artist, like, oh, so that's what they were heading with this,
right?
Or that's what they were, what they were trying to give us in this picture.
And I sometimes I do some really twisted stuff, like I'll do a cross with, like, some type of Hindu or Muslim, or, like, some stuff that doesn't go together in our culture.
It goes together in religion, and
no, because they're against each other. Like
see.
Like,
yeah, you're right. But
like, I did a cross.
However, they are religions.
Yeah. I have a cross that I did at just by looking at it is a cross. But when you go deep into it, there's the Turkish evil eye in the middle. There's the Om sign. And then there's the Ankh, the Egyptian Ankh. And then there's the Eye of Ra. Like, it's all a mix-up of all kinds of different craziness in there. But just at a glance, is a cross.
And has anybody picked up on this? And did they get offended by it?
It could probably offend some people.
Somebody, yeah.
But that's what I did.
What was the idea of making that? Why did you want to do that?
It was, for me, a protection symbol for myself. Of all the protection symbols that I relate with.
That's based on your DNA?
Based on just whatever I stumbled on or studied or researched. Okay. And so I wanted a protection symbol for my meditation room, and I just wanted it all in one piece.
Really?
And I was raised Catholic. But I love a lot of Hindu symbology. I love a lot of different cultural symbolism. I'm very attracted to it. I still think that has
a lot to do with our DNA and all the information from generations after generations of
But in my DNA, there was no Egyptian.
Doesn't mean that you were not, or one of your ancestors was not there.
Well, that's true.
And moved on.
That's true. That is very true.
I mean, you were in California, and now you're in
Texas.
I'm
here. You know? That's very true.
For somebody to look at your DNA and like, oh, no, she wasn't a Texan. Well, she was born in California. We're like, well, she was here for a little bit.
Right.
At least 11 months.
At least 11 months.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So let's touch up on the human activist, because you were sharing a story with me about that, and I thought it was very interesting. So what kind of human rights activist events have you participated and you've been part of?
Yeah, so when I attended UC Santa Barbara, it was during the time of like Proposition 187, and they took away some of the, I guess, possibilities of you being able to enroll in college due to maybe your economics, like if you were under a certain level economically, or if you just different criteria that would allow you to go to school if you were, a person of color, underrepresented or whatever. And so there was the UCSB hunger strike against Proposition 187. We did a march down the university freeway, I guess, and we blocked it, and 9 students did a hunger strike.
That was in California?
It was in California at the campus.
At the campus.
Yeah. And then we did some picketing in the grape fields for the farm workers. Just really being out there and supporting the cause, because it was affecting us. Like, now we weren't going to be able to apply to school and get in. I got in due to EOP, and because I was low income, maybe my GPA wasn't quite up to par for the university standards. I lived in South Central LA, and I was able to get a full scholarship to go to school.
What was the EEP that you were mentioning? What is that?
It was, I can't remember what the acronym is, but
something if you were
equal opportunity, program. There you go. Duh. Equal opportunity program.
Okay.
And so they took that away. And so, that meant that the future generations were going to be able to be admitted. And so then what does that mean? You have to have a certain, level of income to be able to afford to go and things like that. And even my daughter, second generation, as I graduated from university, even for her, like as a single mom, literally single mom, because I didn't, have the father's support or nothing like that, then how was I supposed to pay for her education?
Yeah.
And it was programs like that that help folks that to be able to get the higher education.
What made you want to join? Well, besides the fact that they were going to lose, what in your heart said I have to be part, or who did you hear that made you want to kind of sort of
So
walk
I
you
was
through?
part of different organizations. You've heard of Mecha, right? Mecha. And at our school, we didn't have that. We have El Congreso. So it was an organization of Latino students that organized to support either the community or whatever cause would be, you know. So through that organization was where the organizing occurred. And so doing the manifestations of the marches and attending, supporting the hunger strike, or going into the fields to support the farm workers and things like that. All of that was within the student alliance, the student organization. And so when you're part of that, then you automatically learn where you need to go to support. And to me, that was important because I was a student who benefited from it. And for me to know that that was going to get taken away, I did not agree with that. And I was going to help support that.
That's awesome. So how bad did it get at times whenever y'all were either marching or picketing?
Well, the police would came. We never got arrested, but you know, I was never in a position of like actual conflict with authorities or anything like that. It's happened, but at least on my perspective, it was done in a way where we were out, we manifested, we got our word out, and then, you know, we got home safely.
It's so crazy to me that y'all went through all that. And The Walkout is a movie that addresses the Brown Berets. I don't know if you ever seen it. But they were fighting that battle of even just trying to get them to have counselings to let them know that they can go to college, not just trade schools, to where it moved at your generation to where you're able to go to college. But now they were going to take away that and not have those benefits.
Yeah. Well, my high school counselor told me, well, you shouldn't even apply to those schools because you're not going to get in. And I remember distinctly one of the other counselors, she gave me the fee waivers to pay for the applications. And I'm like, okay, good. My mom doesn't, she didn't know what I was doing.
She don't understand.
And I'm like, okay, so then I remember here's another story. The university representative from University of California, Davis, helped me fill out my applications. I didn't even apply to his school. He showed me the ones where I would more than likely get admitted based on my grades and everything. He's like, okay, apply to these schools. I got into all of the schools that I applied to.
Nice.
And I was able to get those fee waivers, which meant that my applications were paid for. And then I went in and my other counselor told me, well, now you have to apply for financial aid. So I had to go in and did my application. I don't even know how I did it because my mom didn't do it. So I was able to get free money.
Nice.
And then I go home and I have to tell my mom that I got accepted to school and that I was going to
understand it.
And she's like, you're not going.
Ouch.
And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, tú ya sabes inglés. You already know English, and pues go work at the bank y ya vas a estar bien. Al banco. I'm like, no, I'm going to go to school. So you know what I did? I packed my bags and I ran away.
You ran away at what age?
My house at 18.
At 18. Well, you were already an adult.
Well, yeah, but in like...
and not in Latino,
not in
household.
Not a Latina house. My mom didn't talk to me for 4 years.
Are you serious?
Because
I can see why she would be mad.
Because I embarrassed her. I left my house without being married and being a woman and all this crazy nonsense. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, well, I had to get 2 jobs. I had 2 majors. I literally would get up at 7 in the morning. I would get home at 2 in the morning because I had to go study. And I didn't have a car, so I rode my bike to work and everywhere I went. But I made it.
Yeah.
And she did go to my graduation, and all of my siblings followed after because I'm the oldest. I have 2 sisters and 1 brother.
Are you the youngest?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
Yeah, my sister that followed, she went to UCSB. My sister that followed her, she graduated from UC Riverside.
But imagine if you would have not taken those steps to run away and go to school.
Yeah, I had to run away.
That would have been at the bank or not even pursuing college.
My sister and my brother, they got taken to school. My mother took them. I had to run away. My brother went to Stanford.
People don't give us enough credit, the firstborn, how much stuff we got to go through.
Oh, my God.
For all the other siblings to benefit of what we have to go through.
My brother went to Stanford.
Wow.
He graduated with the president being present because his daughter Chelsea was part of his graduating class. So my brother graduated with the president being president. And I had to run away from school, from home. But
no, congrats to your brother, but still, again, I think you had the influence to do what you needed to do for them to be inspired one way or another to go to school.
And I don't even know where I got the idea that I had to go to college, because it was not in my family.
Did your mentor have anything to do with that? Was in college when you met her?
Well, in school, I was always part of the advanced courses, so I had AP classes and I had honors classes. I was a good student.
Well, they always talk about college there on those classes.
And so then from there, I guess I got the idea, and my counselor was like, well, not the one that told me not to apply, the other one.
That guy.
And so that led into me going to school, graduating. Then I became a teacher. And then from there, and that's where a lot of the stuff there happened too, with the walkouts of high school students in LA.
The walkouts.
And all of that. And so, I went back to work at my old high school. And
was a counselor there? Did you wave at him?
Not anymore, no.
But
But it was fun to influence another group of a generation that got to also be first gen to go to college.
Yeah.
And then those that didn't want to go, I would tell them, well, you don't have to go. There's other things. There's other programs that you can go, trade school or nursing school or beauty school or whatever,
You just got to find the thing that you like. Because I commend everybody and congratulates every person that goes to college and pursue that. I was in the military I was smart enough, but I wasn't smart enough that I felt like I was going to get scholarships, even though I was able to apply. So I felt knowing that my parents were not going to be able to pay for school, went to the military for that, and I did. But once I joined schooling, it just wasn't my thing. I love being taught and educate myself on different things, but it just wasn't for me. I didn't have that passion for it.
Right.
But I have passion for other stuff, things like this.
Yeah.
Or
not everyone is meant to go through that. Honestly, if I really look at it, it wasn't really for me either. I just kind of went through the motions. I took the easy way out just to say, oh, well, I got a degree. But it wasn't that come on, in high school, I taught math and science. It's not like I didn't know, but that was my path. It was my path to do it that way and then go and be of service in the LA community and teach, and you just never know where your life will take you at.
But the thing that I liked is that the fact that you didn't want to go to college. That's fine. Instead, you gave them different options. Okay, that's fine. This might.
You don't even know how many I encouraged to go to the military.
Yeah.
A lot of my students went to the military, and for whatever reason, I'm like, well, a lot of my students were part of gangs. I'm like, well, go be a real gang person. Like, go
join the police force.
Go fight. go fight for something that's worth fighting for, not a street that you don't even own.
Have no real estate whatsoever.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so, and it was during the wartime though. When I was a teacher, that's when That's when the 9/11 happened.
That's the time I went close to 2002.
So then my students ended up going to those tours.
Yeah. I
you
probably
know.
met with some of your students over there.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, but what are you going to do if you're not going to go to school? And if you're not going to go do a trade? Well, a lot of them is in our blood to be fighters and to be out there in law enforcement and military.
Yeah, and then honestly, like being home, like they would really, if they're being part of a gang, they're gonna end up in jail or dead shortly after, you know. And then when you go into the military, granted, it's dangerous, but a minimum expose you to different cultures, different people. You get to see different places, and that starts expanding your mind to where, like, wait a minute, my little neighborhood is not everything that there is in this world. There's a whole freaking world out there with people doing all kinds of different things.
And I even took the ASVAB test.
Oh, yeah.
And I studied for it. And I would teach it to my students.
Nice.
And I'm like, because if you don't pass this test with good numbers, they're going to send you to the worst job.
Yep.
So I teach them.
That's true. I got artillery job.
Nope. I'm like,
I
no,
did.
you have to do good on this test. Like, look, these are the questions. Study these questions. Yeah. I didn't send them blindly either, you know, but.
That's good, though, because you're right. I didn't know. I just took it in artillery with a bonus of, at that time, it was $2,000. All I saw is $2,000 as a 19-year-old kid. They're like, well, I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they don't even give it to you all at once. They give it to you after you were there for like a year. And then after taxes, it's only like $1,500. I'm like, what the heck was I doing?
Yeah, I remember I even took the test, like, for real.
How did you do?
Scored like a 90 on my ASVAB.
Dang.
And they wanted to put me as a ranger in the Army. And then the military guy, the recruiter's like, Márquez is a female.
Yeah.
And he got in trouble because he thought he was joking. I guess no woman that they met had
at
ever
that
scored
time,
that
when you were going,
high.
there were no Ranger women either.
They couldn't.
No.
They're like, well, she can't. What do you mean? Sign her up and this and that. No, she's a female and she can't be a ranger.
Not at that time, but I'm if I'm not mistaken, that has changed.
And then I'm not even 5 feet. I'm 4'11".
Really?
So that made it even worse. Like 4 feet. Like Márquez is a little tiny woman.
Like, what are you talking about?
So,
but
I didn't end up signing up, but I went through all the. I'm like, I want
to see.
I want to see what they put these kids through.
Yeah. It's funny looking back at my recording and my interactions.
Oh, they gave me a good deal.
I'm pretty sure.
I was like, wow.
With a good score? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I did end up going, but it was an interesting part of my life that I explored and I shared it with my students and because they.
I mean, talking about leading by example, right? Because a lot of the time people just telling you without having to be there, do the experience of, and you show them, okay, let me just show you what I went through so I can really teach you what does it take to get to, if that's the way you want to go. You know, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, I even took a lot of tests with different law enforcement agencies, and but it was not in my cards to do that.
I couldn't be a cop. I couldn't be a police officer.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they like the word cop. I'm sorry, sirs.
Police officer.
Police officer. I couldn't be.
Yeah. But it was just not meant for me to go in that direction. But the art thing is just always stuck with me. Yeah. That is all. That's never gonna go away. That's probably my true calling.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see if you ever have an exhibition or an art gallery here.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna look for it now.
Oh,
now I have to share it with
absolutely
everyone who sees this.
Yes, absolutely. We really want, like, there's all kinds of events, pop-ups, and different things to have. I don't know what's your vibe or where you want to go to, but maybe just to try it out. You know, just to give it a go and check out what it looks like here in the DFW. There's all kinds of events going on all the time.
Yeah.
Or just, you know, if you have your own gallery, then do you. So easy to organize now. Facebook's not even funny.
I know, right?
Yeah. And you were organizing way back in the days when they didn't have no Facebook.
We didn't have any. Oh my God, we didn't even have computers.
They didn't have computers.
Wow.
And
I
y'all
remember
got together.
my first year in college, I had a typewriter.
ladies and gentlemen, a typewriter is something that you type that if you make a mistake, either you have to white out or
Start
over. And there's no screen. You just type, and you type.
There was no email.
Paper. There was no email.
No email.
Because the last time I had an artist, and it was talking about a tape, cassette tape. So I like to explain to some.
They don't know what that is.
And a typewriter is almost
we didn't have cell phones.
We didn't have cell phones. No.
Oh my God, I'm so old.
No, I feel you because I'm the same way. Because I remember my first cell phone was when I was 20 years old, and it was a little brick Nokia. You could drop it. You didn't get no reception whatsoever, but you could drop it and it would withstand the punishment. Yeah.
Yeah, those were the days.
Nah.
And you would actually call people on a landline.
Glued to the freaking landline if you didn't have a cell phone. Sitting there for hours talking to whoever it is that you
have to hurry up and go home because someone's going to call you.
Goodness. And hopefully nobody's listening on the other side because they can pick up the phone and find out who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, those are good days.
Those days are over.
Okay.
Thank God.
All right, so we're running short on time, but let me have a couple of last questions that I have for you. First of all, let me get all your social media.
So I am Art by Corazon on Instagram and Art by Corazon on TikTok. And Art by Brenda Corazon Márquez on Facebook.
The Facebook is Brenda Corazon Márquez.
Oh, there you go.
I think that's what it is. But you do have like a couple pages, isn't it? For Facebook?
Yeah, my personal page and my art page.
Your art page. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I got a couple of questions. One of them is really deep. One of them is very helpful. So if there's one important lesson that you learned in life, whether it's business, whether it's art, or anything that you're done that you can tell your younger self that can help somebody else now, what would you say?
Yeah. I would say don't take things personal. Particularly what others say. Because what they're saying comes from their own experience and it's reflecting their self, not you. Yeah. And so I know that when I was younger, I cared too much about my image, what people were going to say, and doing things wrong and making mistakes. And that took a toll on me. And it stopped me from doing a lot of things that maybe I should have because I was afraid of what people may think. Like this whole spiritual thing, I don't hardly even share that much because, what are they going to say about me, But I would say that don't take things, what others say, personal.
What is that saying? What other people have to say is none of my business?
It's none of my business. 100%.
And I think some Latinos, and I don't know where it comes from, maybe that colonizers from Spain that worry too much about your family name and what they're going to say. I think some of that stuff still rubs up on them.
Oh, of course. Because,
a lot of the times we're too concerned with what they're going to say.
Yeah, and defaming the family, el nombre de la
That. And that comes from over there, I feel like, more than anything, that we still carry on sometimes. It'll be like it's
bringing shame
business.
To the family name.
Oh, man. And then you don't even know where your origin of your name. Probably your name is full of shame from the get-go. What are you talking about? Okay.
Yep.
This one's a little deep, but I started using it last time because remember I was telling you about the little saying that I remind myself every day. And I know whether you're religious or not, I think it's still, it's a good question. So at your funeral, what do you hope people would feel?
What they would feel? I hope that they would feel love, that they would feel that is a loaded question. What would I want them to feel? Hopefully happiness. One thing that I would love for people to say is, she died old and lived her life at the fullest. Not being sad. Well, she lived her life.
Yeah. I'm going to share mine I shared it last time, but that was the only time I'm going to share it, but I'm going to share it one more time. If y'all missed the last episode, you need to go look at it. So what I would like people to feel at my funeral will be happy. Happy, and that I got to do whatever I wanted to. I got to do my life, and I felt really good. And if so happened to be that they cried, it will be tears of joy knowing that wherever I'm heading, I'm in a really good place. That they're probably picturing me laughing or goofing off or saying some freaking dad joke, and I'm not even a dad. So,
yeah, I think
like
I'm
that.
on the same lines too. Like, oh, you know what? Like, that lady really did live her life to the fullest.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
You know?
Okay. And amazing story. So I had sent her. She didn't do her homework. I'm going to throw her under the bus. But I think this has worked out even better. So I like, because I didn't know too much about you, and I like to go through all your social medias and different things. You'll probably find me like
snooping around,
seeing your like who saw your story on TikTok, and it'll be me, and I was just trying to get an idea of different things like that. And I like to ask somebody that maybe not so much known, a little bit of bio, so I can sort of generate the questions that I'm going to and have a good back and forth. But I think this worked out perfectly. I think we touched up on things that people need to hear that could be helpful in life in general. And but all the things that you're done, first of all, having your degrees, coming from a place that you came from, to being art, to be an activist, all that is amazing to me, and I didn't even know that. All I saw is a person that was an artist, and I didn't realize how much it would entail. So with that, I think that Corazon, you are definitely a global Latin factor. So you are a global Latin factor. One last question. If anybody was to Google you or search you on some kind of search engine many years from now, what do you hope for them to find about you?
I want them to find my art. Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it at that.
And to, like, kind of like how we Google Frida and we see her art. Like, I would love for me to be that way. Oh, let's Corazon, and my stuff to just pop everywhere.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, best of luck to you. I hope that you continue, and again, in the near future, see one of your art galleries and be able to be present and definitely.
Yeah, I'll certainly invite you in my next opening.
Look at the picture and really try to analyze what it had. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. This was another episode of the Global Latin Factor podcast. Remember, we are just like you. We are the spice in this melting pot that it is the world. Until next time. Thank you very much for checking out this episode of the Global Latin Factor podcast. If you are enjoying the content and the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers so we can bring you more episodes, more channel. Go like, go subscribe, go write a comment. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. Walks like a pero, but in fact is a flamingo. Coming to Havana and from Puerto Rico. On a pirate ship, you don't know where do we go. The birds of the jungle chasing fortune and